just to add to my introduction, I think context is my presentation is all about context. So it's important that you know something about me, because what we do in qualitative research is we say that the researcher is the instrument. And so you need to know where I come from. So I've been living in Nepal for 17 years. I speak Nepali. I work very closely with people who speak local languages in local communities, and they have taught me everything I know about Nepal. And so I'd like to just acknowledge Neha Sharma and Machindra Basnet, who worked with me on this project, and the massive low birth weight trial team. So I'll start off with this kind of complicated diagram. I'm speaking to people who know about all of the things on this diagram. But just to say that, we should focus on adolescent nutrition because it's such a key time in life, which can affect the health and development of an individual, but also future generations. And a particular reason to look at girls is because of the intergenerational effects of their malnutrition. So if a girl has low BMI when she becomes pregnant, that has huge risks for her pregnancy and her child, and for the outcomes of that child. I'll move on. So why look at context? Well, we really need to look at context because often programs and policies focus on the individual as the agent of change. So it's on your responsibility to change your behavior. And if we do that, then we often ignore the complex structural issues that affect nutrition and malnutrition. So what we did was a secondary analysis of qualitative data collected in the low birth weight trial. So this data wasn't collected to look at gender, but that's what we decided we could look at the data for that purpose, and to look at underlying adolescent nutrition. So our context is Danusha, which is in Province 2. So everybody knows about Danusha, I'm sure, but just to really locate you in the place. So it's a plains district with high prevalence of underweight among women. It's low on the Human Development Index score in Nepal. It has low literacy rates, and it has the lowest median age of marriage among girls. So another important thing to talk about in terms of context is honor and gender in Danusha. So the literature, global literature about honor, tells us that honor is a system of social values which are given meaning by large groups of people over time. And it's the self-worth of a person, so it's their integrity. Its opposite is shame. And that arises from a failure to act according to social norms and according to honorable behavior. And that can have impacts of public disgrace. So very kind of practically, households can be, cast out from communities and not considered a member of that community. So honor motivates and constrains as well. And it can relate to any social norm. So I think that's important to think about, because these social norms are particular to Danusha. They're also, honor is found in other contexts also. It's more common in areas where people have a less allegiance to their national government. That's what the literature tells us. So in Danusha, in adolescence, and also in other parts of Nepal, according to my research, girls experience increasing regulation of their behavior as they mature in order to protect their reputation and their sexuality. So the norm in this context in Nepal is to marry, and anything that prevents you from marrying makes your family vulnerable. So enough about context, the methods that we use. So we use qualitative methods. We purposefully sampled in order to answer questions for the low birth weight trial South Asia. So that's something to remember. We did a manual analysis of data using a social constructivist theoretical perspective. So we did focus groups with adolescent girls who were unmarried, and we did focus groups with young mothers, and then grandmothers and female community health volunteers. So the first kind of finding relates to gender and honour. As I was just talking about, I felt it was important to give you that context so that I didn't have to spend a long time talking about that before this slide. So women and girls need to maintain the family honour. They have quite a big burden to do that. And they need to get married, and any behaviour that prevents them from getting married could damage their reputation, damage their family reputation, is really key in terms of their behaviour. So how this relates to nutritional behaviour and eating behaviour, we found that girls shouldn't eat outside the home. They shouldn't be outside without a purpose. They shouldn't be in places where bad behaviour is enacted. So often, gossiping in tea shops is not a place for young girls to be seen. So mothers told us the custom is to tell daughters not to eat outside and not to move around outside. People neglect them if they go outside. And then sons can eat whatever they like outside. So the second kind of finding that we had was that gender relates to nutritional needs. So there's a perception that boys need more food. And this was also internalized by girls themselves. So boys play, run around, digest their food more. So they eat more than us. They're stronger. They have more energy in their body. They fight wherever they go. And I was saying in my introduction how important it is to focus on girls' nutrition as well as boys' nutrition. So this girl told us, my parents tell me you remain in the home, so eat this thing only. They say he goes abroad, but where do you have to go? The assumption that girls will stay at home. So the third finding was about gender and nutritional investment. Commonly known in Nepal that girls move to their in-laws' homes after marriage, but boys are an investment because they stay at home and they look after us in our old age. That's what the mothers told us. And so that translates into nutrition. If we take that into nutrition, it means boys need to be fed more because they will feed us when they grow up. Daughters will get married as she's another's property and she will go to another's home. So this quote, the bottom quote, is from a girl. Parents don't want to spend much money on their daughters. They feel burdened with daughters. They hesitate to spend money because of financial problems. They say if we get into the habit of eating delicious food, then the father-in-law and mother-in-law will abuse her. So this thing, you shouldn't have a good habit of eating well because that will change when you go in your marital household, or it might change. Okay, so we had lots of other findings, but I wanted to keep it brief and kind of focused. And thinking about the conclusions and implications of this analysis. So we can see that patriarchal norms and the need to maintain honour affect girls' eating behaviours. And in this kind of disempowered population of women, it's important to encourage healthy choices when we make programs, so people can choose what they want to eat, and we shouldn't try to stuff messages down girls' throats when they might be overjoyed to have the chance to eat delicious snack foods from the bazaar. So on a kind of optimistic note, I think we need to remember that individuals are constrained, but they also interact with social structures. Gender norms can change and are fluid, and individuals interacting with those structures can change them. So that's an important thing to remember. we desperately need more qualitative research with adolescents particularly. Adolescents are not a homogeneous group. There's married, unmarried, there's adolescents of different ages, in families of different socioeconomic statuses, there's girls that work, girls that go to school. So we really need to, not take adolescents as a homogeneous group and try and explore the issues affecting them in those different categories as I talked about. And if we work with adolescents to do participatory research, that might help us design interventions that empower them to make choices, which is, I think, healthy choices, which is what we want them to do. So thanks to the study participants, all the women that we talked to, the data collection was funded by DFID. And the photos are from Amita Sharma, so all of the girls are from Danusha, but they're not obviously the girls in my study, and Anuj Adhikari. Thank you so much.